Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome back. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to bring to your attention that a very interesting book came out. Actually, I didn't know about it, but this book actually came out in 2010. I just became aware of it. Yeah, I just became aware of it. See, Rabbi Gisselson also didn't know about it for all this time. This book is called The Scroll of Secrets. And I'll tell you what it is. It was written by somebody, Tzvi Mark. Now, I found out recently also that this Tzvi Mark has written a bunch of different things, actually mostly in Ivrit, I think always in Ivrit. However, this one was translated, so now it's in English. And it says, The Scroll of Secrets, a hidden messianic vision of Reb Nachman of Breslov. So what is this exactly? What this is there was once a Maisa that Reb Nachman was sitting in a wagon with his two closest Talmidim, Reb Nassan and Reb Naftali, as well as a third individual. And Reb Nachman tells the two of them, I'm going to tell you what is going to happen in the times of Mashiach. And he says that this is only private information for the two of you, for nobody else. So they kind of said, well, you know, there's kind of someone else in the wagon here. And Reb Nachman told him, don't worry about that, I'll take care of him. And Reb Nachman, over the next few hours, starts talking about things about Mashiach, how old he's going to be, how old his wife will be, specific details about exactly what's going to happen with the whole parsha of the Mashiach. And it's truly fascinating. It's an entire book on this conversation. After this conversation, Rav Nachman told the two of them that this is something that's secret and they cannot speak about it. What they should do is they should write it down, but they shouldn't write it down clearly. They should write it down in a secretive way that only they know really what it means. And this secret document should be passed on throughout the generations to, I think what it said was only one individual in each generation, or very few. I don't remember exactly. I'm in the middle of now reading the book. And it's truly a fascinating book. I highly recommend it. I'll tell you, something that it did for me is, of course, we all believe that Mashiach will come. He'll come at the right time. And, of course, it's one of the foundations of our faith. But I never, ever saw such a thing that a certain tzaddik will say specifics of how he's coming and what it's going to look like and what the situation in the world will be and how it's going to play out. Maybe there are other tzaddikim that spoke about it that I'm not aware of. Maybe there are other writings that I'm not aware of. I never heard of such a thing, such specifics. And to me, it was a chizuk. It strengthened my emunah because, of course, I believed it. But when you hear that a certain tzaddik said, this is how it's happening, this is what's going to be, and he didn't live that long ago, Rav Nachman. He passed away a little bit more than 200 years ago. It was a very big chizuk for me that, this tzaddik saw it clearly what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. So for me, it still is. It's a very big chizuk. I highly recommend this book. Again, it's called The Scroll of Secrets, written by Tzvi Mark, and you can get it on Amazon. That's where I got it. Okay, that was number one. Number two, we are trying to promote this shul as much as possible. Breslev of Thornhill, which is in fact Breslov of Toronto. we're trying to promote it in different ways. Of course, we have a presence on the internet. There are WhatsApp groups, but we're always trying to increase the promotion, and we're always trying to put our shiurim on other websites and other WhatsApp groups, etc. If anybody has any ideas, please reach out to me. If you know of any websites that do shiurim or do videos of shiurim, or other WhatsApp groups that I'm probably not connected to, if you can reach out to me and let me know, we would very much like to promote the shul, the shiurim, etc. Next item is there is going to be in Yetz Hashem a Lag Boimer event, which is going to happen. Lag Boimer is what, in about 10 days? Am I correct? Something like that?
On Sunday.
It's on Sunday, a week from this Sunday.
Yeah.
A week from Sunday. Okay, so in Yetz Hashem there will be in Yetz Hashem an event here at Breslov of Toronto, Thornhill, Kal Yereim. So stay tuned for that information. Also, Baruch Hashem, our WhatsApp group of Pnimius Toronto is growing, but it is a great way for me to communicate, for our organization to communicate with everyone else when we're having shiurim, when we're not going to have a shiur, events, etc. So please reach out to me if you're not already on our WhatsApp group. My number is 647-272-9873. Please reach out to me and we will include you in the group. Okay. What we were speaking about last time was, we were speaking about, the last thing we spoke about was Adam Kadmoin. Before that we were talking about the Makom Pani. We were talking about the Kav. Something that I saw somewhere, but I don't remember where, is that it's actually interesting that we said that the Makom Pani represents din, which is judgment, and the female aspect, and the Kav represents chesed or rachamim, and is the male aspect. It's very interesting that by a chuppah, what do you have? You have a chassan standing straight, right? And he's male. So you could certainly say that he represents the kav. And the kala under the chuppah goes around him. The kala, and some minhagim are the kala's mother, the kala's mother-in-law. The women surround the man.
Seven times.
Oh, hello, Chaim. Hello.
7 times.
7 times. And so that's also, it's a very interesting, it's an interesting idea that we were talking about how we could see different examples of the Kav and the Makom Pani down here in this world, and that's also, seems to be also a pretty good match. Also, I wanted to speak about something interesting. We were talking about the Ein Sof, and it's very hello. It's also very interesting. We have a certain tefillah. This tefillah is Adoin Olam, and this tefillah is something we don't know exactly when it was written. The minimum when it was written was in the 1400s. Some people say it comes from the time of the Tanoim. We don't know exactly when it was written. However, it's a very interesting thing. This is a tefillah that we say every morning. On Shabbos we say it before davening and after davening. I even understand that there are some people that have a minhag that say it after each tefillah. It's a tefillah that's very much a part of our Yiddishkeit, and it's interesting that the way that we address Hashem in this tefillah, Adon Olam, is we almost, maybe I'm missing something. I don't know any other example where we refer to Hashem as Adon Olam. In other words, most of the times our tefillahs go Riboin Kol Ha'olamim, or we'll call him HaKodesh Baruch Hu, or we'll call him Hashem, or by a Shiva House Lo Yaleinu we'll call him Hamakoim. When we go to Beis HaChaim, Hatzur Tamim Paloi, or Tzur Kol Ha'olamim. It's very interesting. We have a lot of different expressions, many different expressions for Hashem, but the expression Adon Olam, I don't know if there's any other place that we see this in any tefillah. I don't know. If someone can think of something, I'd be interested to know.
Don't you already know he's the master of the universe? What are you saying Adon Olam for?
Okay, well, we say Adon Olam because it's always good to speak about Hashem and the foundations of our Amunah, etc. What's interesting about the word Adon Olam is it's the exact gematria of the word Ein Sof. And not only is it the gematria of Ein Sof, but Adon is the gematria of Ein, and Olam is the gematria of Sof. So it's very interesting that and this gematria, by the way, is brought down. I saw it in the Siddur Shlah, and I saw it also in the Sefer of Yaakov Moshe, which is one of the foundational svarim of the Torah of Rabbi Yisrael Sruk. It's very, very interesting. Number one, it shows you that whoever wrote this tefillah was involved in Pnimius HaTorah or Kabbalah, and he was probably trying to give, I imagine, some kind of a subtle message. I mean, we somehow, for some reason, we say this tefillah a lot, and it's a very, very interesting thing to see. Okay. Yes.
Could it be because he didn't want to use the word Ein Sof?
Well, that's I agree. Right, he did it right. They were trying. I mean, you have to understand.
That's a hidden word.
Right. Even if it was written in the 1400s, very few people were even aware that there's such a thing as Kabbalah. So 100%. That would be the theory. That was a message that he wanted to give out, but in a secret way. That's how I understand it. Okay.
The whole essence of Adon Olam is all about this.
Is all about this. Exactly. Yes, that's true. It's a very good point. If you look through Adon Olam, you'll see that it's talking about the creation of the world before everything was created. Exactly. It's talking about exactly a very excellent point. But all these inyanim that we're talking about now are spoken about in Adon Olam. I guess in a hidden way, but it's exactly what we're talking about right now.
I normally talk about Kiddush at that time, so.
Right. We have to take it more seriously. Okay, so now it's interesting. A very chashuv person actually listened to my shiur. I was very humbled by it, and he asked me a question. He asked me that we have this chazal that says, Rashi actually brings it down. I can read it even now. Here. It's the first Rashi, it's one of the first Rashis in Chumash, on the very first pasuk. Says, Bara Elikim, V'loi Nemar Bara Hashem. So, Bereshis Bara Elikim, Eser Shemayim V'Saaretz, it doesn't say Bereshis Bara Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. It says the word Elikim. So, Rashi thought that was interesting, and he asks a question. V'loi Nemar Bara Hashem, why doesn't it say Bara Hashem? Shebetchila ala b'machshava Levrasoi b'midas hadin. Initially, Hashem wanted to create the world with midas hadin. Rosh eino olam miskayim. He saw that the world would not be able to exist. Hikte midas rachamim. So he brought in the midah of rachamim. V'shitfa the midas hadin, and he added it to midas hadin. Behind the chsiv, and later on it says later in Perek Beis, Pasuk Dalid, Bayoim Asois Hashem Elokim Eretz V'Shamayim. So then at that other pasuk it says, Bayoim Asois, when Hashem created, when Bayoim Asois Hashem Elokim, then it added the word Hashem to Elokim Shemayim V'Aretz. So in the end, the Chumash does say that it was Hashem Elokim. So of course, Elokim is always Midas Hadin, and Hashem is Midas HaRachamim. So there was a chashuv person asked me this question: how does this whole thing fit in over here to what we're talking about? And it's interesting that he actually asked a question that our Sefer talks about directly, and so we're actually going to look inside now. We are on page Chaf Hey. That's the first page of the Hakdama base called Hakav. So we're on page Chaf Hey. On the left side, the second piece down, it says Gimel, Kav. Does everyone see that? I'll just show it quickly to everybody here. It's this piece that starts right here. Okay? So we're just going to read it. It's a very small piece, but it's very significant. So Gimel, Kav. So we're talking about the Kav. Kasav HaRizal. In Mavoy Sha'arim. Now, there are many different Svarim that Rav Chaim Vital wrote down to explain the Torah of the Arizal. One of the big Svarim is called Mavoy Sha'arim in the Sha'ar Rishon. So what does the Rizal say about this kav? This is what our Chachamim said in Bereshis Rabbah. In the beginning, Hashem created the world with midas hadin, and afterwards He added midas harachamim. What was the kavana? What does this mean? At the time when Hashem created that empty space, the makom pani, through the tzimtzum, through the constriction, haya midas hadin. That was midas hadin. V'achar shenetzli ha'ilamos. And after the worlds were created in the Makom Pani al Yedei HaKav, through the Kav, V'ha'or ha'Ein Sof nislabesh b'soicham, and the Or Ein Sof was closed into this Kav, Azai nishava midas harachmim, then it became midas harachmim. So it's interesting, what the Arizal here is saying is that, you see, a lot of times you will see these chazalin, right? You'll see these different gemaras, midrashim, etc. And what the Arizal says is it's talking about this. When it says that Hashem wanted to create the world with midas hadin and then ended up adding midas harachmin, it means He created the world with the makom pani, and afterwards He added a kav, which was midas harachmin. Now, just for clarification, the way the Medrash says it, you could think that Hashem maybe changed His mind, right? Chas v'shulam, and you should know that it's not the case. That you could think it means Hashem had an idea to create it with midas harachmim, and then the way it says it, like He saw it wouldn't work, so He added midas hadin. He saw it wouldn't work, He added midas harachmim. It doesn't mean Hashem changed His mind. It means the way Hashem ideally wants the world to work is in midas hadin. That means a person does mitzvahs, he gets rewarded. A person chas v'shalom does averas, he gets punished. That's how Hashem really wants the system. Hashem understands that we're human beings and we're going to goof up sometimes. So He adds an element of midas harachmim, which allows us time to do tshuva before He hits us chas v'shalom with a punishment. That's generally what this Chazal is saying. So I'm just for clarification purposes, Hashem doesn't change His mind. That was always the plan, to create a world that ideally uses midas hadin, but we need midas harachmim to allow us some space so that we don't get hit right away. We can, a chas v'shalom person does an avera, Hashem doesn't punish us right away, then we have a time to do tshuva, time to get better, and hopefully we can avoid the punishment altogether.
Does that mean like behavior of judgment?
That's correct. Midas hadin is judgment. Correct. Okay. So next. So now I wanted to discuss what we said last time, where we left off, was we had said that Hashem filled this empty space slowly with the kav, and each time the kav came down, another sefira of the 10 sefiros, which we haven't really explained what exactly the 10 sefiros are yet, but right now just put that in your back pocket that there are 10 sefiros, and the kav came down and there was keser, then the kav came down and there was chachma, kav came down further, there was bina, until the whole makom pani was filled with the 10 sefiros, ending in the middle malchus, and that is called a new world, that is called a new tzimtzum, and that is called Adam Kadmon. And what we showed last time was this diagram of exactly that, and I mentioned last time, don't let this big circle in the middle confuse you. That's just the way that whoever drew this diagram drew it, but really the entire thing is filled with these 10 sefiros. It looks kind of like a target. As a matter of fact, the way the Arizal puts it, by the way, this is also an important point. This is a one-dimensional diagram, but of course, everything is three-dimensional. So the way the Arizal actually puts it is, it's like an onion. That's how this is. So, in other words, an onion is one layer on top of another layer on top of another layer. This is just, you're seeing the onion cut in half over here, right? But really, it's a circle. Okay?
It's a cross-section.
This is a cross-section, correct. Now, so we're going to have now another question. Another question is going to be now, it's called Adam Kadmon. Okay? Now we said clearly that do not get confused. Adam Kadmon, you might think that means the first Adam, the first man. It doesn't mean that. Adam Kadmon is a world that we have explained. Now, again, I have to remind everyone, please, we're talking about very high things now, and we're talking about circles and shapes and other things. I have to tell everyone again, it's very important when you learn this limud not to be magashim. That means you will see certain pictures in your head, and you're supposed to see pictures of circles and a kav and sefiros, etc. But everyone must understand this is not physical. Okay, this is all happening in a spiritual world. It's all spirituality. There's no physicality up there. Chas v'sholom, chas v'sholom. Okay, every now and then I'm gonna remind everybody, and a reminder for myself as well, and that's extremely important. Okay, so the question is now, why is this place, this new olam that has been formed or has been revealed, why is it called Adam Kadmon? Why does it Kadmon? You understand, Kadmon means the first, right? So this is like the first world of many, many spiritual worlds that's going to appear. But why is it called Adam? Why is it called man? So Adam, obviously we know one simple pshat of why a man is called Adam is because he was created from
Nothing.
Not nothing, from the ground, from the Adama, right? So because man is created from the Adama, so he is called Adam. That is a simple pshat. Another pshat of what the word Adam means is Adam ele elyon. I am compared to what's higher. Adama, that word, that shirish of Aleph, Dalid, Mem means to be compared, or means to be mirrored. So now, what are we saying over here? We seem to be saying that this place of these 10 sefiros called Adam Kadmon is some kind of a mirror image of something above. So how exactly does that work? So, I have to tell you a little bit about history, briefly, so you'll understand where we're coming from. This limit of Kabbalah was something that was always there, and there were always people that knew it and understood it, different tzaddikim. But in the very beginning, it was always kept very hidden. For instance, Adam HaRishon did receive a sefer from a malach called Raziel HaMalach. We have this sefer today. This sefer was passed on throughout the Doros. We had spoken already in the past that Avram Avinu wrote Sefer Yetzirah, so we see that he knew this. We have a Kabbalah that Yaakov Avinu wrote a Sifra Ditzniisa, which is part of the Zohar today. There's parts of Kabbalah that we have a Masorah that came from Moshe Rabbeinu. However, Kabbalah was always something that there were only Yechidim in every door that were allowed to know it, and it was not the time for the general public to know it. And this actually, from creation until the time actually of the Ramban. Now the Ramban lived in the 1200s. So until that time, which is fairly recent in the history of the world, we're talking only about 800 years ago, until that time, Kabbalah had to be kept very, very secret, and those who knew it were not given permission to spread it further.
Well, because there's very deep stuff and
very deep stuff, and correct.
I think it says it's too powerful.
Right. I don't want to. Let's try to hold the questions. No problem. The Ramban is the first one ever. Now, the Ramban, there were no printing of books in the times. The printing of books started in the 1400s. The Ramban was before that. However, the Ramban did write a Perush on Chumash, and he wrote other things, and he gave out those manuscripts. So that information was given out. And a lot of times you will see even today, if you'll look at the Ramban's Perush on Chumash, Many things he'll say that you can understand, and many things he'll say, leyoidei chein, that the people who know chein will understand this. Now, chein means favor, but chein is Rosh Tevis Chachmas Nistar, the hidden wisdom. Yeah. So it's what he'll say many times in the Ramban. This is known leyoidei chein, to those who know chein, and this is what he's referring to. And over there he's saying big things. Even at that time, it's quite a few years already that Art Scroll translated it, the parish of the Ramban on Chumash. All those parts they printed them in Hebrew, they left them untranslated. Yeah. Since then, I think Art Scroll has changed a little bit, because we have a sefer, for instance, Yesod v'Shorosh Avoda, that the Kabbalistic parts are translated. It's not such deep Kabbalah in general as other parts of Kabbalah, but since then Art Scroll probably has changed their attitude a little bit, and the whole world is going in this direction. Also, Art Scroll just came out with the Kedushas Levi. We have it right here in Shul. They're openly talking about sefiros, etc. Art Scroll would never touch that with a 10-foot pole when I was growing up. This is a recent thing that Art Scroll is doing, and the world in general is doing this. Why am I speaking about this? Because we have a very big chiddush came out with the Rebbe of the Ramban. The Rebbe of the Ramban in Kabbalah was someone whose name was Rabbi Azriel from a place called Gerona. Gerona is a place in Spain. Okay, and we have ksavim from this Rabbi Azriel. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest people today, his name is Harav Moshe Schatz. In Kabbalah, he's from the biggest people today. He lives in Eretz Yisrael. You can see things from him online on YouTube, etc. He came out with a whole sefer, I think it's called Mayan Moshe, that brings down the ksav that I'm about to talk about, and he explains it. And Rabbi Zriel from Gerona said a massive chiddush, life-changing chiddush, and the chiddush that would change the whole system of Kabbalah. And what he said that in Ein Sof itself, or himself, you also have Eser Sefiros Kemusos. What that means is that Kemusos means extremely, extremely hidden. That's what it means. Now, in the Torah of Harav Chaim Vital from the Arizal, you will never see any mention of this, to my knowledge. Even when Rav Chaim Vital speaks about Adam Kadmoin that we're talking about right now, Rav Chaim Vital will say the details that he needs to tell you, and he will say Adam Kadmoin, we don't speak about this. This is something too high, and we don't speak about it.
Rabbi Kranz in Binyan Ariel said the same thing. He said there are sefirot in Ram Kamlan, but we leave it alone.
We leave it alone. Oh, so right. So any of the Mefarshim on the writings of Harav Chaim Vital will speak this out, and they will say Adam Kadmon. We don't talk. Again, there are certain very important details about Adam Kadmon that we need to show the development of all the worlds and how Eitz Chaim unfolds and the whole Kabbalah of the Arizal. But Rav Chaim Vital himself says we don't talk about more than this. I'm not going to talk about, because this is something too high, and we don't talk about this.
What do you call that? Just for us, what?
The Kemusos?
Kemusos.
Not Rav Chaim Vital.
No.
Right, correct. So now we have something. Rav Chaim Vital doesn't even want to talk about Adam Kadmon very much. And now we have this piece of information that actually preceded Rav Chaim Vital by a few hundred years, but Rav Chaim Vital didn't talk about that. And the issue is called the Eser Sefiros Kemusos. That means the 10 hidden sefiros be'Ein Sof. Eser Sefiros Kemusos be'Ein Sof. Now this is a massive chiddush, because you can understand if Rav Chaim Vital was hesitant to speak about anything about Adam Kadmon, we're talking now about something higher than Adam Kadmon. Actually, basically at the top. And Ein Sof, we never say anything about Ein Sof. We just say he was an Or Pashut, he wanted to do chesed, so he created the world. We say almost no information about Ein Sof himself. Well, guess what? Rav Azriel from Gerona says a big giant sod, that in Ein Sof himself, Kaviyachol, there are Esther sefiros kemusais. Kemusais, extremely hidden. Now, what does this mean that these sefiros are extremely hidden? Again, I'm going to tell you now a mashal, but please, you must take it as a mashal, and we cannot be megashim, okay? So we're not, the mashal I'm going to teach you is a mashal to try to understand the inyan. But of course, when we're talking about Ein Sof or anything that we're talking about in this shiur, we're not talking about physical things at all, chas v'shalom. What the Svarim say is that, from what I understand, the way that they used to make fire was there was a certain stone, it's called a flint stone, right? And they would take two of these stones, if I understand correctly, I don't know if I ever saw it, maybe I did see it once, you would rub the stones together or bang them together and there would be a spark. And correct. And then if you'd have something flammable next to that spark, so then it would hopefully catch fire and then you would have fire, right? This is how they made fire before the invention of a match, okay?
Sticks rubbing.
I don't know, maybe also, but right now we're talking about the flintstone. So the flintstone, the Svarim say, you see that you have in this stone the characteristic of fire. There's no question. Because if you took two other stones or two other anything and you rub them together, you're probably not going to see sparks. This stone in its essence has the characteristic of fire. However, you can cut that stone up as many times as you want. You're never going to find the flame in that stone. You'll never find fire in that stone. However, the characteristic of fire is inherent in that stone. That's one way that the Svarim try to explain what this means. Eser sefiros kemusois be'Ein Sof. That these spheres are there, but you cannot see them in Ein Sof. Now, of course, we can't see anything in Ein Sof. Ein Sof is the epitome of invisible. So, but if we could somehow see Ein Sof, we would not see these spheres there. The same way that we cannot see the fire in the flintstone, though it is there. Now, this notion of Esther sefiros kemusois be'Ein Sof is a major point in the Torah of Harav Yisrael Siruk. Major. So all of the Svarim that try to explain the Torah of Rabbi Yisrael Siruk start with this, that there are Esther sefiros kemusois be'Ein Sof. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit more details, and I'm going to have to draw a diagram. Yeah, so we'll draw it like this. Okay, this is the diagram that I'm drawing. I'm not an artist, but that's how I'm going to draw it. What it means when we say that there's Esther sefiros kemusois be'Ein Sof, they are in the same form as they are in Adam Kadmon. As a matter of fact, actually I have here a better diagram. This diagram comes from Rabbi Morgenstern has something called the Yam HaChachma. And the Yam HaChachma is the highlight of all of his Torah over the year. He puts in a big fat book. It comes out, I think in Eretz Yisrael even they give it out free, believe it or not. If you want to buy it in America, you can buy it in America. This diagram comes from his Yam HaChachma, and he actually did once a whole section on the Torah of Harav Yisrael Siruk with many diagrams. It's very kedai to get if you're interested in that. This diagram is representing the Esther sefiros kemusois be'Ein Sof. So it's very similar to the other diagram. It's almost identical to the other diagram that we had of Adam Kadmoin. What it means is that actually, as a matter of fact, I'll read you what it says here. Around here, whoops, okay. Let's try like that. Around the circle, that's all Ein Sof, okay? And as a matter of fact, I shouldn't say that. The entire page is Ein Sof. But within Ein Sof, there are 10 sefiros, and they're circular. That's how this Messiah goes.
Is the line the kav? I can't see.
No, the line is not the kav. The line is just pointing to where Malchus is. That says Malchus.
Oh, I see.
And it's funny, the way he explains these Esther Sefiros, Rabbi Morgenstern, he says, Igulim ze soich ze. These are circles, one inside the other. B'metzias she'ena b'metzias. In an existence that is not existence. Because these things are very, very hidden. So that's how but this is not his choice of words. The Svarim say this. These sefiros in Ein Sof Kaviyachol have an existence that are not in existence. They're kind of faintly there, but they are there. Now, I didn't draw all 10 because what we're going to be dealing with now is mostly the Malchus and the Yesod. Okay? So this is what the Torah of Harav Yisrael Saruk says. The notion of Esther Sefiros Kamusas Be'Ein Sof, that's Rav Azriel from Gerona talks a little bit about it, but he also doesn't give major details. In the Torah of Rabbi Yisrael Saruk, you're going to get major details. And this is what he says. He says, now, in the past, when we explained the Kav and the Makom Pani, I showed you this diagram, right? And so this is all Ein Sof. And then we said Ein Sof folded into himself and made a Makom Pani. And there's the Kav, right? That's what we said till now. So now, this is very typical of the Torah of Rav Yisrael Saruk. It tells you extra information that Rav Chaim Vital did not tell you. Why Rav Chaim Vital didn't tell us? That's a good question. We'll talk about that at a different time. But this is what the Torah of Rabbi Yisrael Saruk says. He says, first I'll explain it to you people, and then I'll try to show it on the diagram. He says like this. He says, in the center Kaviyachol of Ein Sof is Malchus, right? Because we have these circles one inside the other. So the very center is Malchus, and then is Yesod, and then is Hoid, right? So he says like this. He says, that very center Sefira of Malchus in Ein Sof vacated itself and went up and mingled with Yesod. Okay, so now, I'll just show it. I guess I'll just show arrows. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain this. What I'm showing here is that Malchus it's the same thing that we said before, that Ein Sof found a place in himself, Kaviyachol, in the center, and vacated that place and folded into himself. So now, around that place you have Ein Sof, and inside you have Kaviyachol, a vacated space, which we said is not really vacated. But the details that Rabbi Yisrael Saruk adds is that middle space is called Malchus. When it folded up or folded out, it folded into Yesod. So this is what I'm showing you, is that the Malchus, I'm putting arrows, is now no longer there, but it has mingled together with Yesod. Yes?
It's almost the opposite of the formation of the Sefirot that broke and separated.
Right.
Merging.
So that's going to be, right, correct. That's going to be, you're talking about later, you're talking about Shviros HaKelim?
No, the way
they were forming...
Just sort of merged with the next one up.
Right.
In the creation of the Shtalshlus.
We never had a merging before.
No.
That is correct. Now, what the Torah of Rabbi Yisrael Saruk says is now we know, you're going to see that there are 10 sefiros, half of them are male, half of them are female. Okay? That's a general rule. I don't want to confuse anybody, but basically there's three. It's called the Eitz Chaim when you view it this way. There's three lines. Basically, everything on the right side is going to be male. Everything on the left side is going to be female. And then there's four in the middle, in the center. Two of them are male and two are female. To make a long story short, Malchus is female. Okay, Malchus is always female. Okay, Yesoid is always male. So what's happening here is that female and male are now coming together. So what you have now is what this Torah says is you have a merging of male and female.
Is that planning at that level?
For sure. When male and female merge, that's called a zivig. When you have a zivig from male and female, in Yitz Hashem, you have children, you have peiros, you have fruit. So Malchus, which is female, has merged with male, and what is the children?
Kav.
Well, creation. This is what it says in the Torah of Harav Yisrael Suruk.
Very cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, we're still okay for time-wise. Now, also it's interesting that it says the Medrash that talks about it's actually here in Rashi. He quotes the Medrash. I just want to read the words. Okay, so that same Rashi that we read before. Bar Elokim, Bereshis Bar Elokim as Hashemayim v'Haaretz. Bar Elokim, v'lo nemar Bar Hashem, shebetchila Allah b'machshava livrasoi b'midas hadin. Allah b'machshava. It went up in Hashem's mind to create the world with midas hadin. Now, what's this expression? It went up in His mind. If you think about it, the Chazal talk like this. The Chazal say it went up in Hashem, Kaviyachol. Hashem doesn't have a mind. Hashem's all spiritual. But what does it mean? Allah b'machshava, it went up in his mind. What does that mean? Why do we use that expression? It says the Torah of Rabbi Yisrael Suruk that Allah b'machshava means that Malchus went up. Malchus went up to Yesoid. Yesoid is higher than Malchus. It's one above. Allah b'machshava means that Malchus went up to Yesoid. That's what it means, Allah b'machshava. So you see from this that the words that the Chazal chose, we take it for granted. But these words are actually explaining to us very, very high in Yanim, in Kisvei Arizal. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to continue in the Sefer.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So let's continue. One second before we continue. So now, so let me just make the point. So now, the answer to the question: why is Adam Kadmoin called Adam Kadmoin? Why the word Adam? Because Adam can mean that root Aleph Daled Mem means to be compared. So Hashem. So what we have is that Adam Kadmoin is a reflection or a comparison of what is above him, which is Ein Sof, which has sefiros kemusos, which has these very, very hidden sefiros in itself, in Ein Sof. And that's why that the diagram looks exactly the same, right? So this is the sefiros kemusos be'Ein Sof, right? The very hidden sefiros in Ein Sof. And when you get to Adam Kadmoin, it's the same thing. It looks exactly the same way. That is one explanation of why Adam Kadmoin is called Adam Kadmoin. Okay, now we're gonna continue in the Sefer on page. Everyone has their say Sfarim or yeah, on page Chaf Hey. So we had started before. But I think we should just go back. It's very quick, so I think we should just go back to the beginning. It's only a few lines. Okay, so we're at page Chaf Hey at the very top, Hakav. Okay? Achar hatzimtzum arishon, after the very first tzimtzum, which was the creation of the makom pani, shekvar nistalek kol haor letzdaden, that the or had already vacated and went to the sides. V'lo nisha b'soicha chalal mehaor hagadol rak reshimu, and what was left in that center space was only the reshimu, was only the leftover of the or Ein Sof. Shehu kedimyan guf hayavesh belina shama. And we said before that this is like this place is now like a body without a neshama, because it's a body because there's a circle there, it's something there, but the or Ein Sof is not there. So it's like a body without a neshama. Hey Hashem Yisbarach l'seicha chalal hapani. Hashem shined into that chalal hapani, that empty, that kaviyachol empty space. Nitzutz echad, one spark. Shel or, it's not really a spark, it's a line. Meo or Ein Sof, from the or Ein Sof, hagadol ve'anoira, the great and awesome. Shebesvius hachalal, this Ein Sof that was around the chalal. But oifen yashar, in a straight way, dugmas kav, which looked like a line. Vehu heyer besoicha reshimu, and this line shined into the leftover space within the makom pani, the empty space. Kedimyan hanashama b'soicha guf, and so this line becomes like the neshama in the guf. Umizeh hanitzutz, and from this shining, this line, nimshech chiyas l'chol ha'olames kulam. From this line we get the chiyas, the life of all the worlds, all the life of all the worlds, all of existence. The life of all that existence will come through that kav. Atziles, Bria, Yitzira, Asiya. So now he's naming the four lower worlds after Adam Kadmoin. Atziles, Bria, Yitzira, Asiya. Those are the four lower worlds. L'chol ha'alfei revavois, oilamois, hatiluyim bahem. And also the tens of thousands of worlds that are attached to them. So there's five main worlds that we just spoke about, but those main worlds all have branches and branches of branches and branches of branches of branches. So there's billions of these worlds ad Ein Sof. Ilachol habriya kula elyonim v'tachtoinim, and everything gets its life from there. All of the creation, the higher elements of creation, the lower elements, ruchni v'gashmi, all ruchnius, all spirituality and all physicality, everything comes through that kav. Malachim, serafim, chayos, v'efanim. These are four different types of malachim. They are all getting their energy, their chiyas from this kav. Anashim, human beings, chayos, animals, oifois, birds, v'shiratzim, v'chulu, etc. Birds, insects, etc. If you were to remove that kav for even one moment, tizbatul kol habriya kula, the entire creation would be destroyed. V'zeh soit hapasuk, and this is the secret of the pasuk in Nehemiah, where it says v'atem mechaya es kulam. When the pasuk says, "You Hashem, you give life to everything," it means the kav. It means Hashem, but it means Hashem does it through the kav. Ve'akav hazeh, turn the page, we're at Chaf Vav at the top in the middle. Ve'akav hazeh nimshach, this kav goes down, ve'hoylech, and goes b'soich makom hachalal, goes into the makom hachalal. Aval einu magia ad soifoi, it does not come to the end of the halal. Kedei shaloi yachzor ve'yischaver or hakav ima or Ein Sof shebesvivas hachalal v'yizbatel kol atzimtzum. So we said last time, if that ray of light, that kav, starts from the top of the makom pani and it starts to descend down, and it goes down, as the diagram shows over here, okay? But it does not go down to the very bottom, because if it would go down to the very bottom, you have to understand that the, for lack of a better word, the or the energy of Ein Sof is so great that if there's one hole at the top allowing in this or this energy, that's more than enough. But if there would be an opening at the bottom also, then the or of the Ein Sof would be coming in from the top and from the bottom, and the entire vacant space would be overwhelmed and it would collapse. So that can't be. So that's why the kav only does not extend all the way through and through. Yes, v'zeh hakav. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Okay, v'zeh hakav, this kav, hu yoiser rachav milmala. So that's what we said last time. It's actually wider at the top, even though the diagram doesn't show it that way. But according to what we have, not everyone says it this way, but according to how the Sefer Sifsei Chein is learning, the top of the kav is wider, and as it descends down, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner until it's thin as a hair.
What's the reason?
Like a funnel.
Like a funnel. The reason is at the top, it seems to be the system like a funnel exactly. The system is it at the top it catches whatever it catches, or there's a hashpa of a lot of ore, and as you get closer to the center, which is Malchus, the ore has to be diminished, because Keser on the outside is the highest hashpa, and then it goes to Chachma, there's less of a hashpa, there's less ore. So by the time you get down to Malchus, there's the least ore, and that's why our creation is here, where we are here is in the place of the least ore. That's why there's bang, bang, bang physicality, right? And that's why here, Chas v'shalom, a person can say God does not exist. Chas v'shalom, a person can do an aveira here. That's because what's here is the lowest part of the kav that's thin like a hair. But everything we have here, our life, our existence, our spirituality, whatever we have, is coming through that little, even though it's only the size of it, the width of a hair, it's coming through there. Again, it's wider at the top. Kisham hu mashpia harbe or, because at the top there's a lot of ore coming in. V'chol ma shechoylech mishtalshel lemata, and the more it goes down to downward, hu miskatzer v'choylech ad kechut hasara. It gets smaller until it's like a hair's width. Now, here's a little bit of a problem. Listen to this. He says, this Sefer says that this kav is called Adam Kadmon. Now, as soon as I saw this, I knew that something is wrong, because we have explained clearly that the first hashpah is the kav, and the kav will create an oilam called Adam Kadmon, which we explained. It's the circle with 10 circles within it of sefiros, right? Now here in this sefer it says, L'chei nikra kav hazeh b'shem Adam Kadmon. This kav is called Adam Kadmon. So as soon as I saw this, I called up my Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Kranz, and I said, who also gave a shiur in this sefer.
Was he from New York?
And he's from New York, and he lives in Borough Park. And I said, what is this? That's not what the Arizal says. And he says, Reb Chaskel, you're right. I don't know where they got this from. I picked up the phone and I called up Rabbi Mandelovich, who is he was a Talmud of Rabbi Kraus, Zecher Tzaddik Levracha, who wrote the Sefer. And I said to him, what's going on? And he said to me, this is a mistake. And in the next edition, this will be corrected. So yeah, so I had to read it because we're going through the Sefer, but I have to let everybody know that this is not the case. Everyone should know clearly that there's a kav, and from the kav develops Adam Kadmon. So I'm going to read the words, but you will see in Yetz Hashem in the next edition that this will be corrected. V'lachei nikra kav hazeh b'shem Adam Kadmon. That's incorrect. Iv Rosh Tevos Ak. And he says in Rosh Tevos Ak. Now Ak is Aleph Kuf, which stands for Adam Kadmon. Ki hu nimshach behadraga milmala lamata dugmas koimas ha'adam. Okay, so let me say a few things here. We're almost out of time. The first thing he says is that the Rosh Tevis for Adam Kadmon is Ak, Aleph Kuf. Now, you will hear, if a person will go to a shiur in Kisvei Arizal, you will hear this expression, Ak. And if you'll learn the Svarim, you will also see many times in Svarim they will not write out the word Adam Kadmon, they'll write Ak. Now, not only that, but a lot of the expressions in Kisvei Arizal you have these short forms. For instance, eventually we're going to get to something called Zeir Anpin. Okay, Zeir Anpin, the short form for that is Rosh Tevis, Zayin Aleph is Za. The same thing. You will hear people talking about this, giving a shiur in this, they'll call it Zah. Or you'll see it in the Svarim, Zayin Aleph with the two Strechlach, Zah. We're going to get to something called Nukva Dezer Ampin. You're going to see it referred to as Nuk. So there's a lot of these short forms that are used when we're talking about Kisvei Arizal. Now, why is that so? So I have heard two explanations for it. One explanation is I heard from somebody that he said that in Shemayim, when these issues are discussed, that's how they discuss it. which is interesting. It had to be a pretty big person that said that, because that person knows what was happening in Shemayim. And I'm not saying we have had tzaddikim that knew what was going on in Shemayim. So I did hear from someone that when they, again, what's happening in Shemayim, right? Like, I'm sure a lot of things are happening in Shemayim, but one thing we know for sure from the Chazal is in Shemayim there are yeshivas, right? There are yeshivas. Not only that, but we have a Masorah. It's very, very important. This, what I'm going to say now is a very important thing. That a person has to try as much as possible when he's down here on this world for 120 years. We have to try as much as possible to cover Kol HaTorah Kula. Even if we do it not in such great depth, but a person should try as much as possible to go through properly Tanakh. That means to say Chumash, Nevi'im, and Kesuvim, yeah, Mishnayos, Gemara, Halacha, Shulchan Aruch, and of course, try to go through Zohar, try to go through Kisvei Arizal. Even if you go through all these things, I'm sure most people don't have enough time to go through all these things in depth. But this is the beauty of a Daf Yomi. This is the beauty of Mishnayos Yomi, Halacha Yomis. What big people have said is that any area that you have learned through when you're down on this world, as long as you have opened up the book, I shouldn't say opened up the book. It's not just a sefer. You have to, let's put it this way. If a person can go through in detail Chumash, all the words of Chumash, and understand them and learn the Perushim on them, then in Yetzer Hashem, after 120 years, all those places will be open to him. Because he's began here, so we can only begin here. Hashem completes for us. So any area, yes?
So, if you've done Daf Yomi like a whole bunch of times,
right?
Is it appropriate to stop and then go on to other things?
Listen, I'm sure there would be people that would tell you, no, don't do that, because there's no question that everyone has to learn Gemara every day. And even the greatest Mekubalim have said that you can't just learn Kabbalah whole day. You must learn Gemara every day. It's a foundation of our Amunah and of our Yiddishkeit. And there's many reasons, al pi Kabbalah even, why you have to learn Gemara every day. But besides that, our Masorah is to learn Gemara every day. And the way Rabbi Tat said it to me was that's what gives a person das. This das, one of the sefiros is das. You create your das, you develop your das with Gemara. Gemara is extremely important. And this is why Klal Yisrael is very much into Gemara, Baruch Hashem, the Daf Yomi, etc. So there would definitely be people that, if you would ask that question, would tell you, no, continue to do Daf Yomi until 120 years.
It's still a good question.
It's an excellent question, and I will tell you, other people would tell you that if you can keep doing Daf Yomi and be able to complete Kol HaTorah Kula, then of course continue to do Daf Yomi. But there would be other people that would tell you, well, if you've gone through Daf Yomi and you've gone through it properly, you need to go through Chumash properly. You need to go through Nevi'im properly. You need to go through Kesuvim properly. You need to go through Mishnayos properly. Not all of our Mishnayos are in the Gemara. We have some Mishnayos that we don't have Gemaras on, right? And then what about Halacha? And what about the Zohar? And what about Kisvei Arizal? The rule is that anything that you have begun, Hashem will complete. In other words, it's also it makes sense al pi svara. It's logical because Hashem does not demand of us something that we cannot do. Hashem says, I want you to try your best. But that trying your best means we have to enter in all these areas of Torah and try as much as possible to understand them. And then after 120 years, those places will be open to us. But chas v'shalom, chas v'shalom, chas v'shalom. If somebody leaves this world and has not gone into certain areas, it seems like, I don't know exactly what happens up there, but it seems like those areas will be denied of that person in that place.
Very radical.
It's radical?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you know, if you've done Daf Yomi for many, many years and gone through it a whole bunch of times,
Right.
then maybe it's
time to
stop and move on.
Again, it depends on your schedule.
You have to ask a shiloh.
You have to ask, it's a big shaila, but I'm telling you very clearly that big people have said what I'm telling you now is a very important thing. And Rav Nachman himself, Rav Nachman pushed, as impossible as this might sound, Rav Nachman pushed his Hasidim to go through everything that I said yearly. Every year, everything that I said, Tanakh, Mishnayos, Gemara, Yerushalmi, Medrash, what's that? So this is a whole question exactly if Rav Nachman wanted you to just to daven it up, just to do it very quickly, but do it. This is a very big question yeah, it's a very big question. Should you learn things quickly and not understand them? Or is it better to, I think as a general rule, it's better to slow down and try to understand what you're learning rather than do a whole lot and not really understand it. Again, you have to ask, this is a question in Breslev, you have to ask who you go to in Breslev to ask that question. But one thing's for sure, it says clearly that everybody should try to go through Kol HaTorah Kula at least once in their life. Okay? And try to do it, try to understand everything on a very basic level. If you begin, Hashem says, it's not your fault that you couldn't complete. I only gave you 120 years. I will complete for you. And of course, once a person gets there after 120 years, everything is, again, I think I probably said this before in a shiur here, but I want to say it again. The Baal Shem Tov says, Toras Hashem Tamima, Meshivas Nafesh. The word Tamima can mean perfect or can mean complete. The Baal Shem Tov says, Toras Hashem Tamima means that every single thing that we have on Torah, every Gemara, we have 1,000 Chassidish Svarim, we have Halacha Svarim, Shilas and Chuvas, everything that we've done, the Torah is still complete. We haven't even scratched the surface. Okay, so what am I saying? I'm saying we have to start, and all of this, what's really going on in the Torah, all the secrets of the Torah, all of everything that's going on in the Torah, that we will in Yitzshem be privy to this after 120 years. But we must start here and we must try, we must make a goal to try to go through Kol HaTorah Kula at least once. At least once. By the way, I'm just thinking out loud, it could be that this is part of the kavana of the Chazal that said that we have to learn Shnai Mikra, I went over time, I'm sorry. We have to learn Shnai Mikra Vecha Targum, right? Every single year, we have an obligation, al pi halacha, to read the psukim 2 times and read once Onkelos, right? Some people say instead of Onkelos, maybe you could read an English translation, could be. Some people say you could learn Rashi instead, could be. But you need to do this, you definitely need to do this 2 times, read the words in Lashon Kodesh 2 times every parsha, every week. And then a third thing to help understand, Onkelos or maybe otherwise. It could be that the reason that Chazal did this for us was that we would have such good grounding in Chumash is the root of everything. So maybe you could say that if you have an extremely good grounding in Chumash, then after 120 years, everything will be open to you because the whole Kisvei Arizal is based on Chumash, the whole Gemara is based on Chumash, the whole Mishnah is based on Chumash, right? So maybe that's the reason why the Chazal wanted it so bad. One of the reasons why they wanted us so much to do Shnai Mikra Vecha Targum. Just a thought. Tikkun Lo Shavuos. So you're saying could be also this. Could be also. So the truth is,
Travel and everything, right?
right. So on a very simple level, you could say that is Tikkun Leil Shavuos. To be honest, the Arizal says specifically why it's important to do Tikkun Leil Shavuos, and I'll just say in a second. Then I'm taking away from a different shiur. The Arizal says that during this time, actually, sefiros Omer, every day we are building something, and the completion of this binyan, of this building that we are building, happens through Tikkun Leil Shavuos on Shavuos night, and then we are makabel the Torah the next morning. So actually, it's the last piece in the puzzle of this project of 49 days. And in Yetz Hashem, we'll get to it. The Arizal tells you specifically why and how and what. But on a simple level, yeah, it could be true what you're saying. Okay, so
it could be both also.
It could be right.
Same thing. I'm saying
100%. Everything in Torah we have a simple right. We have paradas. We have simple explanations, and we have very deep explanations. Okay, sorry I went over time. The next shiur, Rabbi Gisselson will be giving in B'Yam Darkecha, and that'll start now on Zoom.